So you had one question about duplicate content and another question about Cloudflare.
Correct. So
I love Cloudflare.
so on the first one that's more important is the duplicate content part. So the issue ends up being like when you have an e-commerce site in general, I mean, you can choose a couple different ways to put your products on. One is you can do variable products or variations, you know, like you have a t-shirt and there's multiple sizes and you can, you know, stuff like that. Or you can do separate individual products. And what we do is we recommend to clients, if you only have like 5 or 10 products, put each individual SKU you have as, you know, separate, or not SKU, but each individual variation you have as its own product.
Interesting.
Just because it looks funny to go to a site where you've got one product and you know, that's it. Doesn't seem very good. But then once you start getting 10 or 15, then it's like, let's categorize them and all that kind of stuff. So the question that, like, one of my clients is like, because I noticed that on like their tarps, for example, they've got different variations of the product, but they're not doing variable products. It's like, so there's different sizes, you know, different sets, and each one is its own product, but the descriptions are very, 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 very close to the same. Like
right.
Temperature, what it's made of, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So and then what we were doing is there were some images when I was looking at all the products, doing the category stuff that we talked about, which is working out well. Then there's pictures on some products, like of a tarp being used on a truck, where they show like the grommets, they show the D-rings. Those things are good for all of the products. So is that considered duplicate product? Not just text, or duplicate content, but pictures. What does Google do about that? Do they care when it comes to an e-commerce type of thing?
Yeah. So this is a super challenge with a lot of e-commerce sites, right?
Yeah.
The question becomes, you know, how much different is different content, right? And there's only some, like a tarp is a really great example. Okay, you have a tarp that's 9 by 13, and you have a tarp that's 20 by 24, made of the exact same material, except maybe even the exact same color, but there's only so much you can say about a tarp and its dimensions to make the description unique.
Exactly.
So, first of all, it's important to remember this whole duplicate content thing, right? Let's clarify what that means. So, I will confess, as long as it's not recorded, that
not recording
or being recorded. I'm joking. I'm joking. That I've threatened clients with the fear of duplicate content penalty, and I tried to manipulate people by saying there is a duplicate content penalty on a website if you have the same content throughout. I'll admit that was wrong. I shouldn't have used that threat, but sometimes you got to push clients a little bit more. There's not really a duplicate content penalty by Google per se, in the sense that Google will penalize your website with having the same content. What really is going on is, if content is the same on several pages or even several websites, Google does not want to share several pages with basically the same content. So sometimes people like me will call it the duplicate content penalty because functionally it works like a penalty, in the sense that Google, if there's too many things that are the same, Google's just only going to pick one of them. And so it might not pick the right one because it's basically the same content between 2, 3, 10 different pages. So it kind of works like a penalty, but it's not a real penalty. It's just Google saying, hey, you know what? This page and that page are virtually identical, and so I'm going to pick one. And sometimes Google picks the wrong one, the one that you would rather them not. Let's take the tarp example. Let's say I have 2 descriptions of tarps. And the only difference is the dimensions. And so you write 500-word description of the tarp and you just substitute out the dimensions. Okay, so now Google sees 2 pages and the real difference is just a couple of numbers on the page of 500 words, right? That's a lot of words and there's only like one slight variation.
Can I add a
Google's going to
caveat
say,
to that?
sorry?
Can I add a caveat to that?
Yeah, please, please.
So though that makes sense, the caveat would be like the title would be different.
Right.
24 by 24 tarp versus 12 by 12 tarp. The title is different.
But even that is just one factor, right? So you were getting to be, it's still basically the same content, all right? And at what point basically the same and actually the same versus basically the same and actually different, where that is a very fuzzy line. So what could happen in this case is someone could search for, I said 20 by 24. Let's say someone searches for a 13 by 20 size tarp. Well, you have a page for 9 by 13 and you have a 20 by 24. Google might send you to the wrong one. And you go there and you're like, what the heck? This is a 9 by 13. I wanted 20 by, 13, or vice versa. And so you because of that, or it could be that Google might like the 19 by 13 better page, but let's say you've got some links built to it, whereas the other one doesn't have any links built to it. Google is going to prefer the one with links, so it might send people to 9 by 13 page, even though they're looking for a 20 by 24. And the person lands on the page and goes, great, it's not the right tarp. Out of there until I can find someone who has it. So because of the way Google works with that, and they will pick the page they find to be best, the similar descriptions basically work as a function, as a penalty, where they'll suppress one of the pages because they think one's better, even though there might be a more relevant page. Does that explanation of how Google works make sense?
Kind of. So there's that, and then there's also the fact that I could see Google saying, wow, it looks like the most popular size that people are looking for is 9 by 13. So even if they say 20 by 24, they could go to the 9 by 13 page. So there's 2 implications of this that I'm thinking of. One is from a client perspective of the company who has the e-commerce site up. You've got to do what is going to be helpful for them to purchase that product. Right. Which means you just got to include that information in there. You just have to.
Yeah.
Pictures and stuff, because you got to help them to make that buying decision. Right.
Yes, that's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to do that. And then the other implication is to make sure that if they do land on the wrong size page or the wrong color, whatever it is, that they can easily in your site maneuver to find what they're doing without going back to Google.
Right.
Would that be a fair way to think about it?
So that's part of it. But first of all, I think the first solution is words on the page still matter to Google. So anything you can do to differentiate the pages, especially the descriptions of the pages of the products to distinguish them, will help you. So in this case of a tarp that's 9 by 13 versus a tarp that's 20 by 24, there's probably a reason why the manufacturer has picked those 2 dimensions. Maybe one's pickup truck and one's a dump truck use, right?
There's a little bit of that.
Right. So then knowing those distinctions will help you be able to generate unique content. This is a great for a dump truck or commercial use, whereas the other one's like, this is a great dimension for your average extended cab truck, or whatever the distinction is, to allow. So you have to know the product to know, well, why manufacturer did you pick these dimensions, and then use that to to flesh out the content so it's a little bit more unique on each page. And that will help Google see that these two are different and then serve the right one for the query. Also, imagery is a real tricky thing when it comes to this. So like, if in this example, we're talking about dimensions of a product, you could have two pictures, but the picture wouldn't necessarily show the dimensions. Even if you put like dimensions in the picture, 9 by 13, 20 by 24, right? The aspect ratio, it's not going to tell. So it's really the words on the page that help make that distinction.
Right. So if it was just a generic picture of the tarp on a truck, right? That would apply. Is that okay to put on like a couple of products?
Yeah. In fact, the thing is, you can get away with duplicate imagery a lot better than you can get away with duplicate words. Right? So you don't have to tell a client, hey, I need you to go take a picture of the 9 by 13 and another picture of the 20 by 24 necessarily. But it's writing the words out. So, I mean, tarps is one thing. Other products might be a little bit different, but I guess what I'm saying is words matter still to Google. Taking the time to distinguish with the words what it is that's different will help Google pick the right product to serve to search engine users when they're looking for what you have to offer. The good news is what you can. I like to say to everybody, have at least 800 words on a page. But with e-commerce, it really doesn't have to be that much.
Yeah.
If it's a super competitive product and there's a lot to consider, long buying cycle, whatever, then more words are only going to help you. But if you're just going through an e-commerce site and writing descriptions for each one, you can get away with 300 words. And 300 unique words per item becomes an achievable solution. It's not easy. And you'd have to make priorities like, okay, these are the most profitable ones for us. These are the ones that we uniquely have, and kind of work your way systematically through the site to the point where eventually everyone has at least 300 unique words. But
yeah, I think what we're going to do is on this is I'll tell the clients, let's go ahead and duplicate the pictures if it's okay on the products. And then on the words, let's go back and number one, fix like some of the spelling and punctuation errors that are there, because there's a bunch. Number one.
oh yeah.
But number two, let's see if there's anything that you can think of for those each particular product that would you could make it different, like the application is different, or the rows of grommets, or anything that ends up being different from the perspective of not worrying about duplicate content, but from the perspective of helping Google find a better match.
Well, and you don't even have to sell it as SEO. You can say, let's help the users through their purchase of TARP solution by making it clear why they should pick this TARP over the other one outside of just mere dimensions. Right?
Yeah, that will be tough.
Okay.
Because it's like, I guess you could do things like, oh, for this size of a load, you got to choose this one. This is meant for this size of a load, but
right.
That's going to be a ton of work they don't have time for. We don't have time for.
Well, and that goes to the whole prioritization process, right? Like, what you could do is just say, well, what's already doing well? We're going to start with those to make sure those at least have unique content, to maybe they'll get a little bit better. And then do some keyword research and find out, well, maybe there's some missed opportunities that we don't have written out uniquely that could benefit from unique content, and then start on some of those. And then just you know, you eat the elephant a bite at a time rather than try to convince the client we're going to undergo a 365-day, 300 words a day project. Right? We're just going to go and start working. Honestly, that Google Data Studio, the Google Data Studio Search Console report we shared a couple of weeks ago with the graph and the bubble chart, that might be a great way to help identify, like, because remember, one of the dimensions was these rank well but aren't getting click-throughs, or these rank on the second page and are already getting visitors, but not a lot. It might be the distinct, unique descriptions could push the ones that are ranking well into the getting clicks, or it might be unique descriptions that get the ones that are ranking on the second page to push up to the first. You could almost use this to determine where our priorities lie.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'll put some words to this, and we'll talk about it in our meeting that we have maybe next week. I got to arrange it, and just kind of say, let's fix the products so that, you know, they're like the punctuation and all that is good. We can add pictures if you guys want, let them do it. And then we'll tackle the products themselves afterwards, because after we're doing the category stuff, I think, because it's like, yeah, it's just too much right now.
Yeah,
Right now we're doing a category a week, and that takes some time.
Yeah, that might be good. And, you know, maybe set a goal. We're going to do 5 products a month.
Yeah. Well, right
We're
now
going to work our way through.
We're doing a category page a week, and that's going to take us through at least the end of the year, if not into January, right? So then we can really look at the products more.
Yeah.
And then I can imagine, though, and then I'll talk to them and say, look, you know, guys, this is SEO is a long-term play. You guys are going to be in this for a long time. You think about a year or two now, when we've got all these products, you know, so many of your products dialed in very well, especially like you said, start with the ones, do a little bit of research, what makes the most sense, as well as the products that they're going to have over in the future, you know, for the next year, 2, 3, 4 years, right? That's what we want to spend the time on, you know, and then a year and a half from now, you're going to have like the most amazing site ever from an SEO perspective.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you for helping go through that and talk.
Yeah. It is super common on e-commerce.
Yeah.
It's super common. And like we talked about in the past, the biggest opportunity for wins on e-commerce sites typically is category pages.
Yeah.
But product pages can do well too if they are uniquely described.
Yeah.
And what I like about this is it's consumer oriented, not just product oriented. So if you figure out that this is for a dump truck with an extended load or a high load, so you're going to need a larger blah, blah, blah. Well, now you not only get people looking for, I need a such and such by such and such tarp. You're looking like, I need a dump truck tarp, because you've mentioned dump truck tarps on the page too, and that's what this is used for. And that's really getting into the value of the long tail, right? The idea that long tail searches don't have a lot of volume, but if you show up for the long tail, you convert like that, because you're the only website that took the time to describe it the way these customers are looking. And you can't even predict some of these long tail keywords. So yeah, like that is the real win of this SEO stuff.